Making a start here with the latest as far as the Russia-Ukraine crisis is concerned. Well, as the crisis between Russia and Ukraine continues, leaders of Poland, Czech Republic and Slovenia are traveling to Kyiv, Ukraine's capital, on a European Union mission to show support to Ukraine. Czech Prime Minister said that the aim of the visit is to express the European Union's unequivocal support for Ukraine and its freedom and independence. He will be joined by Slovenian Prime Minister, Polish Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister for Security as well. Russia's offensive in Ukraine edged closer to central Kyiv on Tuesday with a series of strikes hitting a residential neighborhood in the capital as the two countries planned a second day of talks. Well, let's bring in some more perspective into all of these developments. I'm being joined by JK Tripathy, former ambassador. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for speaking to us here on Mirror Now. First of all, in terms of the current situation as it is now, of course, we are seeing, the Eastern Bloc really come together and going to Kyiv, obviously making a very strong statement there. But do you think somewhere there is, anxiety growing because this is showing no signs of de-escalating at this point in time?
Exactly. The visit of these three premiers from Poland, Czech Republic and Slovenia by train to Kiev in order to meet Zelensky and have a discussion itself indicates that the Eastern Bloc and to say so NATO countries are very much concerned about the prolongation of the war, and probably these three leaders have gone to tell Zelensky to have some safe exit, some honorable exit, some honorable way out, some honorable escape from the war, because Zelensky has been adamant on ceasefire before the talks start, while Putin is not in a mood to do so, and NATO cannot put its soldiers on the territory of Ukraine. So in this checkmate, the only way that appears is that in order to save his country further from the loss of man, loss of person and material, loss of property, Zelensky should either resign or Zelensky should say that, okay, I am surrendering and let the talks begin. But probably NATO, the bosses in NATO, and by that I mean the US, they probably haven't realized yet that the more their puppet Zelensky is adamant with the false sense of bravado, the more losses of population is taking place, and which will not only that, which will again affect all the borderline countries which are receiving more than 2 million refugees.
Yes, absolutely. And Ambassador, the fact is that, it is also another big issue that as the talks are going on, or rather another thing that would increase anxiety, the fact that there are still, bombings that are happening, places that are being targeted, all the while on one hand, and on the other hand, attempts are being made to hold some sort of talks.
Putin's strategy is simple. Before any significant headway can be made in talks, during the talks, he wanted to have a very decisive, very high position of strength from where he can dictate terms and conditions to Zelensky. And he knows, and NATO knows that NATO cannot enter the war directly, and Putin knows it well. So the only way out is that either Zelensky surrenders or Zelensky leaves the country, and or Zelensky says that okay, I promise in writing that we will not join NATO. But I understand that during one of these meetings, past meetings between the two delegations, Russian delegation had handed over some sort of draft proposal to Ukrainian delegation, and Ukrainian delegation has promised that they will discuss it with their NATO allies and all other, and then come back. At least this is what Putin has been reported to have told his Belarusian counterpart. And one more thing, you see, we must not forget that Lavrov, after his meeting with the Ukrainian foreign minister in Turkey, he had clearly said that he doesn't want to believe, and he doesn't believe that there will be a nuclear war. And second part of his statement was even more important, where he said that Putin is not refusing to meet Zelensky to discuss the matter, discuss the issue. So that means Putin is also showing some sort of olive leaf that, okay, I can sit with you, and I can discuss the things. But Zelensky forgets that at this juncture he is not in a position to dictate terms of negotiation. It is Putin who can dictate.
Yes.
So that is the problem there.
Yes, absolutely. And that seems to be what's happening at this point in time. Putin trying to show that he is in a position of power and able to dictate the terms as far as these talks are concerned. But my other question to you is, what do you think is, the fact or the anxiety levels over that this could perhaps, or is there a possibility at all that this could spill over? Because when we are talking about Putin, obviously very often he says one thing and does another, but how much of a worry would that be at this point, that this spills over outside of Ukraine into other countries?
Well, there are some analysts who are very bravely, and I don't know on what grounds they are saying that it may spill over to Finland and Sweden, and of course Poland, Romania, Hungary, and Slovakia. But I feel that at this juncture, Putin cannot, whatever Putin has started, Putin cannot start new fronts beyond in west of Ukraine. What Putin will have to do is Putin will have to be satisfied, be content with a guarantee if he gets from Ukraine or NATO that Ukraine will not be a member of NATO in future, because otherwise Putin is smart enough to know that if he expands the war eastwards, certainly it is going to cost Russia a hell of a lot, and all those so-called allies of Russia will also probably desert Russia. Yes, Aman.
Right, absolutely, Ambassador. In fact, that is, of course, one part of the whole thing. But the other also question here is that it's now nearly 3 weeks. We're at day 20 of this entire invasion. And Ukraine has put up one, strong fight, which I perhaps think that even Putin had not anticipated. Given the way it is panning out on ground right now, what is your own assessment of how things could move? Because the shelling is continuing, the bombing is continuing. There seems to be no de-escalation with the actual violence on ground.
Avani, my assessment is that with the bombing and destruction of the military bases in the west of Kyiv near Polish border, where they suspect that the small arms and shoulder-held missiles were being smuggled out, were being taken out from Poland and stored there. Once that base is destroyed, then probably there would be with coming time, there would be an acute shortage of even those type of small arms and ammunition that Ukraine had been getting from its Western allies. So in that situation, probably the Ukraine's resistance will wane down, and it will be a quicker and perhaps easier victory for Russia in times to come, maybe 10, 12 days.
Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us with your perspective. It still is a waiting and watching game in terms of how things are going to pan out from here.